Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm sorry for not being on yesterday. Sorry for whatever inconvenience it caused people. Thank you, Debbie, for giving the alert. Okay, picking up with chapter 34, verse 1. We actually read the pasuk on Wednesday, but we didn't do much more than read the pasuk. So this is leading into the story of Dinah and Shechem and Dinah being taken. So it says in the pasuk, "Vatetzei Dinah bas Leah." Probably knew already that she was Leah's daughter. Dinah, the daughter of Leah, went out. Asher Yolda Yaakov, that was born to Yaakov. We certainly know she was born to Yaakov. Liros bivnos haaretz, to see what's going on with the young ladies of the land. And Shechem sees her, and Shechem takes her, and it's all not good from there. What's the significance of going through Dinah's relations? Leah and Yaakov, and so we'll start with Rashi. Rashi on pasuk Aleph, Bas Leah, V'lo Bas Yaakov. So by saying she's the daughter of Leah who was born to Yaakov, what it really is doing is it's emphasizing there's something about Dinah that's following in Leah's footsteps, Leah specifically. Ela Shem Yitziyasa Nikres Bas Leah. The fact that she kind of went out to see what was going on makes her very much a daughter of Leah. Shaf he Leah also was the type to go out. That Leah went out to greet Yaakov. It's certainly important to understand here the social norms of the time, and for the social norms of the time, it wasn't normal for women to be up and about in the streets of the neighborhood, etc. That wasn't the norm, and so what we're saying is Dinah being that way sort of brought the problems a little bit. Doesn't justify what Shechem did, of course, but Leah, there's a little bit of a difficult to understand pasuk when Leah makes an arrangement with Rachel that Yaakov will sleep with her a given night, and she comes out to greet him, and she tells him, "You're coming with me." It also seems to be a little bit out of the mode. So that's how Rashi understands the pasuk. Dinah's very much acting as the daughter of Leah. The Ramban is a very different shot. Ramban on pasuk Aleph. V'tam bas Leah asher yodol Yaakov lomar she'achos Shimon v'Levi hamekanim v'nokimim nikmasa. It's relevant to the story that she's Leah's daughter, because who were the two men who were most active in defending her and in attacking those who did wrong to her? Shimon and Levi. And Shimon and Levi are her full brothers, because they're also the sons of Leah. So the Ramban says that's why it emphasized that she's the son of Leah. She's the daughter of Leah. Hizkir Asher Yodal Yaakov Kol Ha'achim Kinuva. But then it also says she was born to Yaakov because, of course, all of the brothers were ready to take vengeance for her, just not to the extent that Shimon and Levi did. Shimon and Levi were the ones who killed the residents of the city, of the male residents of the city. So that's a very different shot than Rashi. Okay, moving on with verse 7. Let's actually do verse 6. So Shechem takes Dinah, rapes Dinah, and now he decides he wants to marry Dinah. So Shechem comes to his father Hamor and basically asks him to arrange this for him. So, verse 6, Vayitzei Hamor avi Shechem el Yaakov. Hamor, the father of Shechem, came out to Yaakov, l'daber ito, to speak with him. Verse 7, Uvnei Yaakov bo min hasadeh kishamam. And the children of Yaakov came from the field in their hearing of what was going on. Vayisatzvu anashim. Again, these are men. These aren't little boys running around. So Yaakov's sons are distressed. Vayichar lahem ma'od, and they're very angry. Kinavala sab Yisrael l'shkav esbas Yaakov v'chein lo yeyaseh, because there was a despicable thing done in Yisrael that Shechem slept with the daughter of Yaakov, and such a thing was not done. What does it mean that such a thing was not done? So very interesting Ramban over here. Ramban on pasuk Zayin. He starts off by quoting Rashi. La'anos habsulos. It was totally an unacceptable societal thing for a person to rape a young lady. Sha'umos gadru atzman min ho'arayos b'pnei hamabul. Says Rashi, in the aftermath of the flood and the lesson that came with the flood, that because there was sexual immorality in the world, God brought terrible destruction to the world. The nations of the world said, we got to shape up and we're not going to live that way anymore. So what it means such a thing was not done is nobody would do such a thing. This was so utterly unheard of. Says the Ramban, I don't know what Rashi's talking about. The residents of Canaan were involved in sexual improprieties, having relations with animals, homosexual relations, all kinds of things. It says in the pasuk, God says, or I'm driving out the residents of the land of Israel because they've done all these things that God, see as inappropriate. And so therefore, when you come into the land of Israel, you should make sure to live in an appropriate way. The Ramban says, so what do we mean? Do we mean that all this sexually inappropriate conduct only started in that generation? Is that what we're saying? So that's point number one. Point number two. Both Avram and Yitzchak are scared when they go to a certain town that if people would know that that they were married, then they would kill them. So that doesn't sound like there's such a focus on making sure to do everything right. So then what does it mean in the pasuk that such a thing was not done? He says the pshat, such a thing was not done, is going on the Jewish people. Something disgusting was done against the Jews, and such things had never been done before to Klal Yisrael. So that they never had something like this happen to them. So they felt they had to respond. Al-Kain Amar B'Yisrael. That's why it says in the pasuk, says the Ramban, that there's a disgusting thing done against the Jews. If it wasn't with the Jews, it wasn't so rare. But for the Jews, such a thing had never happened before. So that's an interesting shot. Okay. Now, Chamor has come and he says, my son wants to marry your daughter and let us know what we can do. And you set the price and we'll give great dowry, etc. Verse 13. Vayanu v'nei Yaakov es Shechem v'es Chamor aviv b'mirma vaydaberu asher timei eis dira achosam. The children of Yaakov responded to Shechem and Chamor with cunning, b'mirma is like with trickery, and they spoke to the person who defiled Dinah, their sister. Verse 14, Vayomru aleihem, and the children of Yaakov said, Lo nuchal lasos hadavar hazeh, we can't do this. Lo seisach hoseinu lish asher lo orla, to give our sister to someone who is uncircumcised. Ki cherpa hilanu, it's not appropriate for a woman of our nation to marry someone uncircumcised. Ach zos deos lachem. Well, what's going to work is all the men of your city have to have a circumcision. And then we'll make all these kinds of shidduchim. So that's what we ask of you. So basically, you should all circumcise, and then and then Dinah can marry Shechem. And in fact, we can make a lot of matches. That's what they say. And if you don't want to circumcise, that's fine. But then there's nothing to talk about. Dinah's not going to marry you. Okay, we know the next part of the story. They have the people of the town go for it. They have circumcisions. They're all terribly weak, and then on the day that the third day, the day that's most sensitive in the recovery from a bris, Shimon and Levi go and basically kill the men of the town, and they take Dinah. Okay, so there's a number of interesting questions here. I'm not sure if we're going to have time to deal with all of them. Number one, Yaakov doesn't respond. Children of Yaakov respond. Why is that? Does that mean Yaakov does agree? Does that mean Yaakov doesn't agree? Number two, Yaakov ultimately criticizes Shimon and Levi for what they did. It wasn't only Shimon and Levi who said this. It was all of the brothers as a group who said this. That's what it sounds like in verse 13. Why is he jumping on Shimon and Levi? Number three, is there any rationale for what they did? Saving Dinah, of course, but killing all these people, was that justified? Is that not justified? Would it have made a difference if they only killed Shechem? Let's get started with the Ramban. We'll see how far we get. Ramban on Pasuk Gimel. Vayanu v'nei Yaakov Shechem v'schamor aviv b'mirma. Hinei Chamor u'Shechem el avia v'elachea dibru. Chamor and Shechem spoke both to Yaakov and his sons. Aval hazaken lo ano sam davar. But Yaakov didn't respond at all. Kibanav yidabru b'nkomo b'niyazel l'chvodo. It's like, it's so beneath Yaakov to be involved in this conversation. He raped her, he wants to marry her. So the sons are speaking in Yaakov's place in it, so as he doesn't get involved in this dishonorable conversation. They feel it's beneath Yaakov to even get involved in this discussion. There's a question here. Shadavar nira kibritzon avia uvatsaso anu. Seems like Yaakov agrees with what's going on. This happened in his presence. Of course he knows this is bogus. Anybody remotely acquainted with Jewish people, certainly the patriarch, knows that there's no way they're going to marry these people whether or not they get a bris. Why is he angry at them later? Why is he angry at Shimon and Levi? He stood there when they said this all and he didn't object. The ode. As we mentioned, this was the response of the brothers as a group. Shimon and Levi are the only ones who act on it. But Yaakov only curses them. Vatshuva, and the answer is Ki amirma haisa ba'amram limo lachem kol zachar. The cunning was they said, we want all of you to have a bris. Ki chashvu shlo yasu came b'nei ha'ir. They were sure they sent them a poison pill, or whatever the talk is on Congress with that kind of thing. They said, we think this is a great idea. We just need all of you to take a bris. They're not supposed to say yes to this. They're supposed to say thanks, but no thanks. That's what they thought would happen. Vim ula yishmul l'nesiyam. Now, maybe the people of the city will give in to Chamor because he really wants it. V'yu kulam nimolim, and then all the men will get a bris. Yavo b'yom hashlishi b'yosam kvavim. What was the plan? The plan was either they would say no thank you, or they would go ahead with the bris, and then it's not that they would come and kill the men of the city, they would come and get Dinah when there's no one to stop them. That's what the brothers thought was a good idea. And their father also thought it was a good idea. Shimon and Levi Shimon and Levi want more. They want to take revenge. And they kill all the men of the city. So this is the pshat, that everyone agreed to the plan, but Shimon and Levi took it to a place that the rest of the family did not have in mind. It's already late, but very, very briefly, again, Yaakov is not happy with what they did. But the Ramban does discuss the potential halachic grounds for what they did. There's an idea that if someone violates the Noachite laws, they're chayiv misa. They deserve to die if they not violate the Noachite laws. And one of the Noachite laws is a judicial system. And how could it be that this whole city sees what happened and didn't say anything? This is at least one of the approaches brought in the Rishonim as to what was going on with this. So we discussed this morning why it gives Leah's family tree, why it's important here with I'm sorry, Dina's, that she's daughter of Leah and Yaakov. Rashi and the Ramban said two different things. We discussed the pshat and the pasuk. Such a thing is not done in terms of what Shem did to Dina. Rashi and the Ramban said two different things, and we discussed what the roles were of all the brothers, what the roles were of Shimon and Levi, where Yaakov stood with it, according to the Ramban.